Hey everybody, welcome back to an Ishan S Show Daily. It's been a while, I've been gone, but I'm happy to be back and we're talking right about some big things going on in politics. I think since the last time we talked, Nikki Haley ended up losing South Carolina and then also ended up dropping out. So there's a lot of stuff that's been unfolding that I wasn't able to cover. And Super Tuesday also happened last week and we had the State of the Union. We have a lot of things to talk about with that. But today I want to talk about something that's a little more stark, that really is indicating the direction in which at least one of our parties is going in as we enter into this upcoming election, which is about the RNC. For those of you who don't know, the RNC is the Republican National Committee, and that's basically the biggest national network of Republican fundraising efforts as well as Republican policy efforts. So it's like the national coordinator for all Republican parties across the country. It's kind of like how they don't tell everybody what to do, but it's how all the states come together, decide on a platform that the RNC then approves. The RNC also organizes the Republican National Convention. They also help raise money for Republicans up and down the ballot. And it's not, and the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, does exactly the same thing. It's just they do it for Democrats. So this is a pretty important organization that plays a big role and has played a big role in our elections, both on the Republican side and the Democratic side. So this year, what I find really interesting going in is the fact that there has been a huge shakeup in the RNC's top leadership, with the current, or well, now former chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, leaving the RNC. She had been serving since 2017, so she came into office when Donald Trump became president, and she basically stood by Donald Trump through thick and thin. She's been right by his side, but after repeated losses in a lot of different instances, specifically, there was the loss in 2018, then there was a loss in 2020, which Donald Trump does not admit was a loss, but even he knows that there were some losses that were made that really hurt him which even he can admit hurt him at least. And then in 2022, obviously those midterms that ended up being a pretty big flop show for Republicans who were advertising this big red wave year. And then, of course, last year, there's been a huge issue. And I wouldn't say Ronna McDaniel is necessarily to blame for it, but the way things run in Trump world, there had to be someone who had to go. There had to be someone who was put on the pedestal and then pushed away. And I think Ronna McDaniel ended up footing that profile for Donald Trump. She'd been serving a really long time anyway. So for Republican National Committee chairs, they've not served really long terms. She'd been in office for 7 years. And privately, she had been expressing some frustrations with the job, and she did want to leave, but she didn't actually make any formalized plans. That was until January, when there were some rumors, and this was back when Nikki Haley was running for president, and this was when rumors started circulating around the RNC of a potential resolution that was being circulated that would give basically Donald Trump all of the RNC's resources by declaring him the presumptive nominee, even though Nikki Haley was still running. Ronna McDaniel did not comment on it, and we don't know what her view was on it, but it was this resolution and then another one like it that were both really quickly shut down. And that's when people started asking Donald Trump, like, what is your view on the RNC and its general leadership? Like, how do you feel about how it's being run? And Donald Trump said, I'm happy with what Ronna McDaniel has done, but she's kind of fledged a little in what I would expect to be loyalty. He kind of questioned her loyalty, and then he said in another interview, I think a few days later, that there would be some big changes coming to the RNC after the South Carolina primary. So he was hinting at a change. And when he was asked, like, is Ronna McDaniel leaving? He said yes. Basically, he said everything short of yes, but he had been pretty upset with Ronna McDaniel. And again, it's just how Trump culture goes. It just had to be someone that he had to pit the blame on. And for all of these electoral losses that Republicans have had, they've lost consistently since 2017. And all of those losses, Donald Trump now wants to attribute to Ronna McDaniel. So with Ronna McDaniel now out of the RNC, Donald Trump had this opportunity to pick new people to lead the helm and run this organization in a way that is supposed to help him. And so what he did is he handpicked the chair and the co-chair of the party. And so the chair ended up being Michael Whatley. Michael Whatley is the now former chair of the North Carolina Republican Party, and now he's the new RNC chairman. He's also the former RNC's former general counsel, so he has experience with the organization. But Trump had been trying to really get Whatley in. Why? Because Whatley is an election denier, and Ronna McDaniel was not always very receptive or warm to the idea of the election denialism, because if we look at the facts, the election denialism is part of what has cost Donald Trump. Abortion and other issues have also cost Republicans a lot, but the election denialism has definitely not helped them, especially with swing voters. And I think Ronna McDaniel recognized that, and she was hesitant when it came to, and she was the chairwoman of a swing states GOP, the Republican Party of Michigan. We have a video that we're going to talk about all the chaos going on there. But the thing with Ronna McDaniel was she was not always very excited or very openly embracing the issue of election or the election denialism of 2020. And that, I guess, kind of came to the ire of Donald Trump, and he wasn't a big fan of that policy. Whereas Michael Whatley is literally an election denier, and he wholeheartedly believes that the 2020 election was stolen. And so in Donald Trump's book, a key litmus test is whether or not you believe that the 2020 election was stolen, and Michael Whatley really checked that box nice and pretty for Donald Trump. So there's one, so at the top executive position, he has installed somebody that can really do his bidding and send money in the places where he wants. And we'll talk about where he wants the money going in a second, because then he appointed Laura Trump to be the co-chair, which is not actually the chair of the, it's not anything like a co-equal of the chair of the Republican National Committee. It's pretty much a key deputy, but it's a powerful position, especially because of her last name. Laura Trump being put into the RNC's leadership shows that Donald Trump wants his family in there. Obviously, he can trust Michael Whatley to do his bidding and everything, because Michael Whatley loves this sort of stuff. But the issue is that Donald Trump loves to have actual firm control over operations. And so Laura Trump very much checks that box because she is his daughter-in-law. And it's not unprecedented for presidents to put their kids or other family members into positions of authority in these types of organizations. But as it pertains to Donald Trump and Laura Trump also has her own ambitions. They very much floated her as a potential candidate for North Carolina to represent it in the Senate. So you actually have two North Carolinians leading the Republican National Committee, which I think priorities wise shows something interesting about what the Trump campaign's looking at. But she is very much going to be playing a big role in this. And the reason I point out Laura Trump and why I think her being in there is significant is because of how money is to be allocated. After it was announced that these two would be the chair and co-chair of the party, there were questions about how money is going to be spent. Where are resources going to be allocated for Donald Trump as well as Republican candidates? And there was talk going on for a while, and it still goes on right now, that the money that they're raising is not going to go to ads to support Donald Trump, or it's not going to go to, printing campaign lit for candidates for Senate or something. It's going to go for Donald Trump's legal bills. And there was a promise that Laura Trump made, which was that every dollar that is spent by the RNC is going to be a dollar that is going to help Donald Trump. And effectively, that just means that we are going to spend every dollar we have in the RNC to help Donald Trump, and whatever he wants, he's going to get whatever. Basically, Donald Trump not only controls his own campaign and by extension the campaigns of so many people, but with the main fundraising arm of the Republican Party, he now controls effectively millions and millions and millions of dollars that are going to for sure help him in his legal bills. And that's what they're saying. Like, now they're saying that he's going to try to use the money from the Republican National Committee to pay off his legal bills, which Laura Trump has said is not going to be something crazy. That is not something that's crazy. Here, it's even a quote that Whatley said: if a dollar we have is not directed towards winning this November, that dollar will not be spent. And it's a fact. Like, for in their view, like they think that every dollar must go to Donald Trump and support him, because if we don't support Donald Trump, then Republicans can't win. Which obviously you can debate the merits and demerits of this type of strategy. If you ask me, someone that's been observing politics for years, it's a poor decision, because you cannot spend millions of your own dollars on one single candidate. Obviously, he's the candidate for president, so spend some money on him, but spending it on legal bills, I just feel like it's not productive use of that money. And also that there are so many candidates in key crucial states, and we probably will have videos lined up for that as well, to talk about where they need the money. Like, they need money too, and they need a lot of it in states like Arizona, where Republicans are running weak in Arizona and in other states where they are running weaker Republican candidates. It seems really difficult for them to get anywhere far without spending a lot of money trying to get the message out for their part. So if the Republican National Committee is going to focus its money on Donald Trump, especially through legal bills, it's going to be something that they're going to regret. But for Donald Trump, he's never been like a long-term thinker. It's always been for him, what's next on the agenda. And so for him, next on the agenda is clearing through this big hurdle in his view, which is about the success of his campaign. So where does that leave things, as for where things are headed for the Republican National Committee? And that's just that they're going to be making big changes. Like, for example, the RNC has just laid off dozens of staffers just days after the new Trump team got installed into the leadership. They are firing people left, right, and center so that they can now run this organization in a way that best serves their new interests. And it represents a shift in the Republican Party, not from like the old Republican Party, like the old Tea Party and like Nikki Haley wing, but like literally just the Republican Party of 7 years ago when Ronna McDaniel was in the helm. There's been one constant, which has been Donald Trump, but the changes that have been going on in this party are shown even more and are highlighted and are shown just how big those changes are occurring within the party within these last 7 years. Because now Ronna McDaniel is considered not MAGA enough. And there are all these people getting fired from the RNC because presumably they're not MAGA enough. They're not carrying out the message that the new chair and co-chair want. So there's a lot to be looking at, and there's a lot to think of what this new partnership is going to mean for the Republican Party. I mean, it can mean a lot of things, and there's a lot of things on the plate that can change and might show that maybe Laura Trump is a very effective political administrator. Who knows? But I just don't think it's not going to be a policy that serves them well for a really long time. I think this is unsustainable in the way they intend on spending money. And either they're going to spend the money the way they plan on doing it right now and then regretting it later, or they're going to realize things and potentially they might not have the right experience to be fixing or recorrecting their goals. But no matter what, for Donald Trump, it just again shows his grasp over the party, that he was able to single-handedly install a new chair and then put his daughter-in-law as the chief deputy of this party. And it shows the big shift in Republican politics that is occurring yet again towards not just MAGA, but now the far MAGA-ism. So that's what we have for today. Thank you so much for viewing this video. If you liked my commentary, then subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the political news blog on the IshanSshow.com, because that's where you see all the videos. You see all the articles, but you can also see all the videos. Follow us on Instagram, X, Spotify, wherever you can find us. And check out our newest upload, which is this one, but the one before this one. Check out some videos you might like. Thank you all for all of your support. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.